Hello. All right, so Hyperloop. Traveling at the speed of sound. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? So who here actually doesn't know what the Hyperloop really is? I'm going to test you guys later. All right, awesome. Well, for the rest, we have a little video here that explains where it comes from, where we are now, and where we're going. So enjoy.
America's always been a nation of doers. We build things, we take risks, and we believe that if you have a good idea and are willing to work hard enough, you can turn that idea into a successful business.
Billionaire philanthropist Elon Musk has hinted at a new high-speed transport system that could put planes and trains out of business.
I have a name for it, which is called the Hyperloop.
So what's Hyperloop? Mr. Musk's plan: move people using a massive vacuum tube combined with a magnetic levitation system. Kind of like a Jetsons tunnel?
It's something like that, yeah.
Here's how he teased the idea in May at an All Things D conference.
It's a cross between a Concorde and a railgun.
It's called the Hyperloop. It's a system of giant suspended tubes. Riding within are capsules carrying people or freight travelling on cushions of air at speeds of up to 1,200 k's per hour, or roughly 1 kilometre every 3 seconds.
A tube that would be on pillars from Los Angeles to San Francisco, and inside there would be capsule cars that would be rocketed forward up to 700 miles an hour, and that there would be a fan on the front. Elon Musk basically says that this is the way of the future.
How would you like something that can never crash? It is immune to weather. It goes 3 or 4 times faster than the sort of bullet train, and it would cost you much less than an air ticket.
It will only cost to build this $6 or $7 billion. Compare that to the $65 billion for the current high-speed rail plans for California. He believes this is a viable, valuable alternative for mass transit between these two destinations.
Could something like the Hyperloop actually be the answer to super fast, environmentally friendly, high-speed travel between our busiest cities? So the gauntlet has been thrown down. A design document for a whole new, super cool way to travel. The only thing now, will someone pick it up and make the Hyperloop a reality?
There are some companies that are forming to try to make the Hyperloop happen, and I encourage them. I think that's great. I'm super focused on Tesla and SpaceX, and to a small amount on Solar City. So that basically completely uses up my brain.
Tesla founder Elon Musk proposed this new technology called Hyperloop, and it's being developed right now in Playa Vista, here in this hangar behind me.
The only resistance would be the air in front of the capsule, which we move to the back by using a compressor.
Company Hyperloop has teamed up with the students to create this tube technology that's designed to connect cities up to 400 miles apart.
Dirk Alborn says it's safer and more efficient than the railroad.
Well, the system is completely computerized. So you optimize the system, and then you actually have the humans to monitor it. In railroads, most accidents were all human factors. Plus, a lot of the derailments are actually happened because something's on the track. So we're in a closed system. We're completely managed by a computer system. There's no human factor that can actually create those issues. We actually plan on seeing the first Hyperloop very, very soon starting.
Can you imagine and walk us through what it might be like to travel at the speed of sound?
It's not going to be much different than sitting in an airplane, actually. Obviously, for us, it's very important to make it as good of an experience as possible. So this is an independent organization that has formed. We have 170 engineers, scientists, and really great professionals with amazing backgrounds.
The race is on. Elon Musk's vision for a high-speed passenger pods known as the Hyperloop is one step closer to becoming reality this morning. One of the known companies competing to capitalize on Musk's proposal, announcing today it has struck a deal with landowners in Central California to build the first full-scale Hyperloop along a 5-mile stretch along I-5, with construction set to begin in 2016.
Let's bring in Dirk Alborn, who is the man who runs the Hyperloop Transportation Technologies team, which is announcing this deal with Quay Valley, California. Dirk, tell me about this deal and really when you expect this Hyperloop, this 5-mile stretch, to be finished.
Quay Valley is supposed to be breaking ground beginning of 2016. That's when we will be start working on our development. So we will be starting ground at the same time. At this moment, we expect to be done by 2018.
Hyperloop now appears one step closer to reality. Starting next year, that theory will turn into a groundbreaking in Quay Valley, Kings County off of I-5. A developer there has just committed a big chunk of his private land toward the project. It's a 5-mile loop that would take visitors through a planned entertainment district.
There's going to be a test track. Elon Musk has announced that he's going to build a small-scale test track. It's a necessary step for us to be building a full-scale version, and Quay Valley is a sustainable model town of the 21st century, so it's a perfect fit. They're expecting over 10 million visitors per year, so we will actually be able to generate revenues very, very fast.
The company plans to go public later this year.
We want to do a public offering. We want to give our community that's supporting us the possibility to own parts of the company. We want to make sure that the people that have been helping building the company and this technology are able to participate in the investment, in the fundraising, and the upside of the company.
With their contributions to Hyperloop, these students from around the world now have stock options in the company. But they say they're not in it for the money.
As a student, I start to feel like I'm in part of some great career that might turn to work.
Will the Hyperloop kill the railroad?
The Hyperloop is going to do to the US what the railroads did in the 1800s. So it will change the way we live. It's possible today, it's based on existing technologies, and it's the right time, it's the right moment to finally get something doing like this.
Is it visionary? In 30 years' time, will you and I be sitting on our rocking chairs going, well, we talked about it then, and he did it?
So you think this is possible? This is not just...
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
For all those who said this is just a neat little thing to draw on a cocktail napkin, these guys are saying it will become reality.
All right. So those were basically 2 years, right? 2 years from where we took what was an idea to now actually starting to build in Quay Valley, California by next year. So just to go back again, what is a Hyperloop? So imagine a capsule filled with people, okay, inside a tube, moving really, really fast from point A to point B. Inside this tube, we create a low-pressure environment so that the capsule, very similar to an airplane that goes into high altitudes, can travel very fast with very little energy. The whole system is completely powered by alternative energy. This is actually one of the most important parts. Why? We use the sun, wind, kinetic energy through regenerative braking, and in some climates even geothermal, to produce more energy than we're using. This allows us to have a very low operational cost, and therefore basically be the first public transport system that can be profitable. Okay, so on something like Los Angeles to San Francisco, we would be profitable within 8 years, including the infrastructure. Now, I know there's some rare companies in here. It's a really big hurdle for them. Mostly when we talk about metros, when we talk about rail, they're heavily subsidized. In Los Angeles, for example, the LA Metro receives 76 cents from each passenger on average and gets $2.50 from the taxpayers, just to give you an example. So the whole system is on pylons, which has the advantage that we need to buy less land because you only need the land of the pylons. It also has the advantage that you can still reach the other side, which if the moment this is your land, you really care about. Because when a highway comes or a normal train comes, your land gets cut in half, and basically they tell you, well, switch it with your neighbors. Most of the times you don't get along with your neighbor. That's a problem, right? So you have to figure out how to get on the other side of your land. It also has the advantage that we can integrate different kinds of technologies used to avoid damages by earthquakes, for example, right? Just like we do in buildings. when you're on the ground, you can't really protect yourself, but if you're on a pylon, you can integrate these technologies that then compensate. Capacity is always an issue, so this is an older version of just a concept where you add additional tubes. Obviously for us, that's the best case. We'll make more money. So we're looking really forward to it. So, but why should we build a Hyperloop? You know, we're good the way we are. Well, not really. Traffic. I think we all know how this feels, right? Traffic is one of the biggest problems we as humanity actually face. We lose a lot of time in traffic, time away from the people we love, even productive time where we could actually do something. Based on where we live, we choose where we work. Based on where we live, we choose who we date. So if she lives on the other side of Berlin, it's not going to work out. It's a long-distance relationship. And this was at 10 a.m. in the morning, right? So at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, this looks much worse. But then there's this. So this is an actual picture of Beijing. Beijing has 50 million people. So in Berlin, we might not have these urgent issues, but in many countries, like China, Indonesia, India, that's real. You can't see your hand in front of your face. You die. I mean, there's one statistic, I think Frankfurt. If you live in Frankfurt, you basically, 8 months of your life are gone because of smog. So if you are in Beijing, those are 22 months, just as an example. So how are we doing this? This is actually the part I'm personally most passionate about, because we're using a completely new way to create companies. And it's working amazingly. I'm sure you all are familiar with these companies. They all have something in common. They're all failures. I'm sorry for the guys. I know when I'm in Europe, a lot of times there's a lot of BlackBerry users. They still have a chance. But for me, for now, they're here. And then there are these companies. They all have something in common as well. All of these companies, at one point in their history, had a problem. Lego, for example, was almost bankrupt. Switched out the CEO. The CEO introduced something called crowdsourcing. And today, it's one of the top toy companies out there. Some of these companies have more than 50% of their innovation coming from the outside. All of these are integrating crowdsourcing. So what we're doing is we call it crowdstorming. And what is crowdstorming? Crowdstorming is really, you have to imagine normally these kind of projects, when it's about a metro, a train, a bus system, whatever it might be, even a bridge, you hear about it, but that's it. Maybe you hear how much it's going to cost, but you can't really participate. You can't give your opinion, you can't give your ideas. So what we do is we're out there, we're out in the public. We create crowdstorm actions where we want to know what you guys think. What ideas do you have? How can we make things better? And we ask questions, and those questions are things like, do we need a ticket? And not only do we need a paper ticket, but is a ticket really the best way to monetize? Because if I can find a way to make more money the more the passenger rides, well, then a ticket is actually negative. Then I would use a ticket only to regulate demand. And it would change completely how we move, right? Or things are like, if we're a startup, we don't calculate on subsidies. So when I look where we're going to spend the money, and I see that we're going to spend billions of dollars in pylons, one obvious question for me is, what are we going to do with those pylons, right? And it's all about asking that question, because if I ask you, if I give you 200 pylons, what are you going to do with it? Then actually some ideas come up. Some are crazy, some are brilliant, but they are ideas. Ideas on how we can monetize, how we can use them to generate electricity, maybe it's a beehive inside the pylon, maybe it's a vertical garden, there's a lot of really interesting ideas. So it's all about asking questions. We are starting out with a blank piece of paper. How do we reinvent public transportation? So we are much more than just a capsule floating inside a tube. So we started out in 2013. We got the project on the crowdsourcing platform. We were using Jumpstart Fund, which launched at the same time in beta. People could come to the platform and apply to be part of the team in exchange to work for stock options in the company. In 2014, at the end of 2014, we finished our feasibility study, and now obviously everybody talks about the Hyperloop, right? It's doable, we can do it. We are going to do it, we're going to do it next year. So now obviously there's a lot of different companies coming out that are trying to work on the same thing. Why am I telling you this? Well, first of all, we want you all to join the Hyperloop movement because we are a movement, not a company. Just like everybody should actually be a movement. So, I want you to join the right company. One of the most important areas. But it's also going to be interesting to see how the traditional model, which most of them are, traditionally VC funded, is stacking up against a team that's driven mostly by passion of very brilliant people. So our community right now is almost 20,000 people that we're using for crowdstorming. We have more than 480 top professionals that are part of what we're doing, plus actually several companies. Okay, so it's not me. This is the easiest job I've ever had. It's all these people that are passionate about what they're doing. Some of them are here, right? You guys stand up. So we have Oerlikon, the leader in vacuum pumps. These guys did the CERN Hadron Collider. They're working in our team in exchange for stock options. We have Reflect, who did the wall over there. This is actually an augmented reality wall where you can explain how the system works, but they're also working on the passenger experience. So all those 500 people are working on making this reality, and we're looking at a lot of different aspects that are going to make your life easier and ours better. We got more than $18 million worth of man-hours that have gone into the project. In average, we get 5 new applications every single day. So I'm telling you this because this is a different way of creating a company. You don't necessarily need money to even do an amazing project. All you need is passion. All you need is ask. If you do something, if you build something, there always has to be a wow factor, and you should just ask your neighbor, hey, do you want to help me? Can you help me? And you would be surprised how often you can get help. We also got more than 590 accredited investors that have been interested in being part of the company. At the beginning, we didn't want to raise any funds. So we didn't know if it was possible. Now this changes, obviously, as we move forward. Even the land. We have more than $12 million worth of land, which came out of the community. We didn't pay for it. Someone actually stepped up and said, hey, here, right of way, build it here. We work with universities, sponsors. We have Microsoft, Autodesk is giving us the programs. So that's even actually the reason why we don't need necessarily money, right? And that's an important part here. But now this is all fine. When are we actually going to see the first Hyperloop? We start construction next year in Quay Valley, California, Kings County, which is right between Los Angeles and San Francisco. So next time you drive from Los Angeles to San Francisco, you will see us on the side of the freeway, right there in the middle, north of Bakersfield building. It's an 8-kilometer track. And we're doing it in Quay Valley because Quay Valley is a model town of the 21st century, cutting-edge technology. It's walkable, completely solar-powered. But it also has an entertainment destination, 3 resorts, theme park, shopping center. So we're actually going to be moving 10 million people. So you see, from an idea, now this becomes reality, all because people are joining together to making it a reality. The technical part is not the problem. We're in 2015. It's all about wanting it. So you're all invited. 2018, 2019 is when we're going to open. I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Ja, klar. Well, thank you very much, Dirk. I should probably say for our international audience, LA Dirk becomes Dirk here in Berlin. Thank you very much for the comprehensive intro into the Hyperloop.
Was it too long for you?
Well, we're a little bit rushed on time, so I'm going to try some hyper-interviewing now. What you showed had some also, I think, surprising aspects, to me at least. I think many of us have heard some aspects of this, but it seems almost like you're pitching now the Hyperloop not just for long distances like San Francisco, LA, but also for urban commuting. How is that supposed to work?
Yeah,
where's the advantage over a regular subway system, for example?
Correct. So in general, we as a company, we want to fix public transportation. It's a dinosaur industry. It needs to be disrupted. It needs to have a business model, and that's what we want to do. The Hyperloop in itself has an advantage of speed, obviously. That's what most people remember after you talk to them. But in the real blue ocean is actually the fact that the energy balance is such that we have very low operational costs. Okay, so if now you use the system for local transport, you still have that energy balance. It's not about getting up to speed, but you still have very low operational costs. Therefore, you can be profitable very easily, and you will have more public transportation because you can actually make money with it, and hopefully it will be better.
The lower cost is enough to offset legacy infrastructure, or you're just thinking about cities that urban areas that simply don't have any infrastructure in place yet?
I mean, in general, we see ourselves as a problem solver, as a technology provider, right? We're not trying to, we're in Germany, we're not trying to go against Deutsche Bahn. We see ourselves as a provider to them for a better solution. And the solution might be the Hyperloop in itself overall, or it might be things that we develop for passenger experience, different monetization strategies on the digital side, or in the local transport system. So the Hyperloop system in itself, if you would put it into a subway, it would still use less energy than you're using at the moment. So it's still a benefit. You might not have all of the benefits, but even if you take part of it, it helps.
Putting a Hyperloop inside a normal subway, that is realistic?
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, you have tunnels, right? They're already there.
Okay.
So from a structural point of view, it's not much difference. You wouldn't have the benefit of the solar power, of course, but you would still benefit from the less energy consumption.
You just touched upon this aspect of price of ticket, and maybe selling tickets isn't even the best way. Then what alternatives are you thinking about?
I'll show you rather than tell you.
Okay, meaning when, how?
Hopefully very soon.
Okay, so to again say this, you're thinking about giving people free rides?
I think in 2015, thinking about, I mean, it's always figuring out what is your business model, right? And for each company, is your business model at the end by selling transportation, or is it maybe other things that are connected to that? And I give you an example for the Hyperloop, right? If we're in Los Angeles, to buy a house where you're not getting killed in your front yard costs you at least $1 million. Okay, so how about I buy a terrain outside of Los Angeles, around 100 kilometers outside, or 100 miles? It's going to be much, much cheaper. Okay, I can build a whole community. And now I say I connect a Hyperloop to it. So within 10 minutes, you can be in the city center of Los Angeles. The real estate value would go up immediately. Okay, I could sell part of it, and with maybe even just the half of it, pay for the whole system. So I don't have an infrastructure cost anymore, and now the operational costs are minimal. So here my business model in that case would be real estate.
Okay. Quickly to Quay Valley. Of course, the lure of what made all of us go, wow, is this idea of traveling at light speed. How are you going to show on an 8-kilometer track that this concept of traveling at speed of light actually works? Speed of sound, I'm sorry, not light speed. I'm a little bit ahead at Wired. We like to be ahead of it. That's Hyperloop V5.
We're gonna need another 2 years for speed of light.
Okay.
For now, speed of sound. So Quay Valley is for us not about speed. You can test speed in the laboratory, so you can demonstrate that you can reach those speeds. Nevertheless, we will break the speed record, which right now is around 600 kilometers an hour. We will do some internal testings for ourselves where we go up to other speeds. It's all about the G-forces. So you can get up fairly to high speeds. You just have to accelerate faster and brake stronger. So you wouldn't like to be inside the capsule. The 600 kilometers, it's still something you could enjoy, I would say. It would be a very short experience because it would take you around 80 seconds to ride in Quay Valley. So we will probably make it a little bit more exciting at the beginning and then makes the experience take a little bit longer so that you have an experience, right? So it's not over in a minute.
How fast do you expect the trains in the Hyperloop in Quay Valley to go?
So as I said, we can, with no problem, go over the 600 kilometers an hour.
Mm-hmm. No, but in daily operation?
We haven't decided on that yet, because we will have to do some testing ourselves. What is the best feeling for the passenger, where he still gets a little bit of an experience? I mean, at the end, you feel the G-forces and acceleration, deceleration. Those are going to be exactly the same, like when you're going to go on high speed. So at the end, the experience itself is going to be the same.
An obvious question on, I think, everybody's mind these days is security. Somebody blows up a pylon, something happens. What happens to the people inside riding the Hyperloop at that point?
So for ourselves, it's a very important topic. We actually have a whole anti-terror team inside. The system can, there are ways that you can make things very, very resistant. I mean, first of all, when someone blows up a part, when you travel that fast, it's very unlikely that he catches without, I mean, you can't see inside, right? That he catches the capsule. And there's other safety measures that you can do to avoid those things, but obviously they're very important.
But the air, there's suddenly air, it would be heavy braking,
I mean,
airbags?
Look, we're in Berlin. There's concrete structures we have in Berlin that have been done 80 years ago, right, 70 years ago, and they're still there because I can't blow them up. There's a lot of stuff you can do to make them very sturdy from the outside. Nevertheless, I mean, nothing is 100% safe. You can just do and take the best measurements against it. But at the end, as a target, it would be more damaging to do it in a subway system or inside the bus, because you would kill more people than inside a capsule.
Okay, a couple of things. I believe you are thinking about an IPO early next year to finance the real track, and I believe you see it coming more in an emerging country rather than...
No, so the public offering, you see, that's it's not to finance anything. We are a crowd-powered company, so our company is based on the community. And one of the early things that we said is we want to have the community the possibility to be part of it. We want them to have the possibility to put in their $20 or $50. Unfortunately, the legislation is such that you need to do a public offering, and we'll be doing a public offering as a Dutch auction. We haven't decided on a date yet. There's some new regulations that came out in the US that we're looking at. It's something that, you know, is not on the priority list for ourselves. It's something that we want to do for our community. In terms of financing our system, as Quay Valley, that's $150 million. There's different financing methods, and we're talking to a lot of strategic investors all over the world, several venture capital firms that are very, very interested. I mean, imagine this obviously has the opportunity to revolutionize completely the way we live and completely the way we travel. So the amounts are not so trivial. It's more about figuring out who are the right people to work with.
Okay, last thing, I want to know, are there going to be any middle seats in the Hyperloop?
I thought about that yesterday too, because I actually had twice the middle seat. So there's different configurations and different seats that we're looking at as well. There's a lot of technology that we're planning to integrate into the seats. And right now they're 2-on-2. So,
and there are no windows, so you need technology to give people some distraction?
We're going to have virtual windows. I can show you some stuff.
Virtual windows, okay. Well, tons of stuff we could still talk about, but the next panel is already waiting. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Dirk, for showing you, for coming by.
Thank you, Carsten.